Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brenegar, and this is the Eddie Network podcast. And this is a special episode where I want to talk about the transitions that we are in right now here in the spring of 2025. First of all, I want to say that none of what is transpiring is a surprise to me. 25 years ago, as I put together this model called the Circle of Impact, I began to realize that there was this pattern of behavior in organizations which were largely unseen. And the unseenness of it was that ideas, clarity of ideas, and relationships of respect and trust were treated as subsidiary to the structure of the organization. And so as a result, ideas became marketing tools and people became utilitarian resources. And as a result, people found that the institution that they worked for defined who they were. They lost their sense of identity. They may not know that, but you take them out of that environment, particularly if they lose their job, and they discover that who am I? And I've had so many conversations with people who reach a point now in their 30s or in their 40s where they realize that they have been working in a situation which has become untenable because they feel like it is no longer representative of who they are. And something is emerging that is telling them this. I want to read you a few paragraphs from my Circle of Impact book. I'm sorry to read something to you, but I think it will impress upon you the fact that I saw something a while back, and I wrote these words sometime in the middle of 2017. It may not surprise you, but we are living in a world in transition. We are saying we are all in transition, both personally and organizationally. This is not some random, disruptive, chaotic change we are experiencing. Instead, this is a long series of integrated changes that represent a dramatic transition in how we understand ourselves and the way the world functions. I am not exactly saying it is futile to resist. However, I do think that it makes more sense to understand that the changes that are happening are for a reason. If we can understand this transition from that perspective, we can see an opportunity to be somebody and to do something through our organizations. I began to see this transition 4 decades ago. The Circle of Impact model of leadership is the outcome of my engagement in this transition over the years. So, what is that transition I'm seeing? I see that there is a kind of exhaustion and degradation to the way we have organized organizations and institutions. And because these things are the most resistant to change of anything in modern society, we do not recognize how we need to reinvent these things called institutions or these things called organizations. And it really is not the institution or the organization itself. It is the way it's structured, which has had this effect upon people that they lose their sense of identity as a person and see themselves as a kind of utilitarian object of the institution. And I've had so many conversations over the years of people who have reached their late 30s or in their 40s or in their 50s who realized that they had kind of gave up their sense of self in order to be a part of the institution. And as a result, they lost something and they're now wanting to reclaim it. And for many of them, that reclaiming means that they leave the place that they have worked at for 20 years or so. And they go looking for something new. And they're looking for something which will validate them as a person. And this is how I came to see that all leadership begins with personal initiative that creates impact that makes a difference that matters. And that means that every person within an organization has the capacity to be a leader, has a capacity to make a difference that matters, has a capacity to take initiative to create change, to create impact. And when the organization begins to see that that's the organizing principle for them, it means that the people who spend their time in the C-suite have to change how they view themselves and view the organization. And what I'm seeing, and this is what I explain to people, is if we look at an organization as three parts, executive, manager, and worker, what we're seeing is a separation of those three so that they do not communicate or coordinate well any longer. Uh, Whatever reason. I'm not interested in actually going to why that has happened. I'm just saying it has happened. It is happening. And when I talk with people about their organizations, and I use this language about their workers, that there's a persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people, it all of a sudden it dawns on them that the people have been working almost separately from the people that lead them, and that they're doing the work that is required for the company to work well, and they're the ones that really form the foundation of the company. I've seen this enough, and I've shared this with enough people who said, "Yeah, that really makes sense. That really is true." So if we're in a transition where the old, highly centralized, highly hierarchical structure of the organization, which has dictated how people think and dictated how people relate to one another, if that is going away, and I think that is what's going away, and I think that will be an outcome of the kinds of changes that Donald Trump is bringing to the U.S. government. I think it's going to make everyone much more cognizant of what they do and the effect that they have on where they work or where they live and in their relationships with one another. That doesn't mean I'm a fan of Donald Trump. I just recognize him as the agent of change. He's a disruptor. And he is and I've said this before, he is what happens when a system seeks equilibrium. And we're at a very great high state of disequilibrium now. And a lot of our talk and a lot of our conversations about what is wrong really doesn't get to how do we change? And that's the real question. And it's not how do you change your business if you have a big business. It's how you change yourself first. Because there is no change that openly makes a difference that matters until you've decided that I have to be different than I have been. And that's a very difficult thing. And even as someone, even like me, who's been involved with this material for 40 years, who's been deeply involved in lots of change and transition for over 50 years, it's still hard. I'm in the midst of it now. I mean, I'm past 70 and it's still there and will always be there, particularly if you want your life to matter. And so I can't say what you should do to go save your organization. I don't know what that is. I can tell you what you need to do to save yourself in the sense of developing your own sense of what is needed to work within the context of the changes that we're going through. And I do think this is a structural change, not just at the institutional level, but at the global level. And I don't think it's a structural change at the global level as the globalists have presented to us. because that really wasn't a change. It was just a consolidation of all the things that had been doing that we have been doing within corporate and governmental structures for well over 100 years. So that really isn't different. It's just a consolidation and an intensification of what they were doing. Um, and I don't think that it works because the complexity of the world is too great. Because you can't manage everyone the same way because not everyone is the same. In fact, the complexity of the world, it really gets uh, taken advantage of when we release people to take personal initiative to create impact. That's where the complexity actually finds its coherence, and it allows people to communicate to one another and say, well, I want to do this, or I want to do this. How can we do this together? How can we join our efforts together to create this impact that we feel like we need to do for this moment in this time and in this place? I think that if you are wrapped up emotionally and mentally in the changes that are going, meaning you're captivated by fear, you're captivated by um, your hatred for Donald Trump, if you're captivated by a sense of failure, or you're captivated by a sense of betrayal, you're captivated by a sense of that there's some kind of revolution going on, I think that you need to give up that sense, that you need to turn away from that because you will never ever find the answers that you're looking for by being fearful and filled with rage. What you have to do is to say, okay, how do I make the best of this situation? What is it that I can do to make a difference that matters? And I believe it starts where you live. I believe it starts in your office, with your family, with your neighbors. I believe it starts there. You try something, it works, you do it again. You try it with someone, you say, okay, let me try it with a different person. But I think what is called upon for each of us now is that we cannot wait for some authority to make the decisions for us in the sense of how we're going to act to respond to the changes that are happening. I don't think you have to fight the government. I don't think you have to fight corporate. I don't think you have to fight anything. I think all you have to do is decide, I'm going to be a person who is making a difference in the matter of this circle of people or in this community. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to build upon that. And when you build upon that, you'll find that you'll need to network with other people who are doing similar things. You're going to find that you're looking for information online that you were not looking for before, and you're going to find that your life has changed. Then that's really what I want you to know, that the only way you're going to get through all this conflict and crisis is deciding you're going to change your own life. And I'm here to help you. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. You sign up for time with me, and we're going to talk this through. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to establish what the big picture of your life is. And the big picture is more than your why. It's more than what your purpose is. It's more than, well, what I need to be doing. No, the purpose is, what is it that I want to change that I have within my grasp? What is it that I can go out and do today or this week or over the next month to make a difference that matters? And if you can identify that and you can act upon that and you can make that the focus of your life, you're going to find that your life has changed. And all this other stuff becomes, the stuff that I call the spectacle of the real, all becomes kind of noise that you begin to turn down, and you don't really listen to it anymore. And it will change how you scroll through social media. It changes how you're talking to people. It changes the people that you're listening to, because you have taken control of some facet of your life where you're now a person of impact. And if you are a person of impact, I want to know about that. because I'd like to talk to you on my podcast because I mean those are the people I'm talking to. I mean, they're average people. They're not celebrities. They're not people who are promoting. They're not people who have brand. Um, for the most part, they're not people who have um, PR firms that are branding them in the marketplace. You know, they're just people doing good work, doing things that you and I could be doing, and maybe would be inspired by someone's comment or someone's story. And maybe then someone will be inspired by your story. So let me encourage you to stop feeding the madness in your own mind about what's going on in this world of change and instead say, okay, this change is a given. What am I going to do to make the best of it? And that may require some changes in your own life that at this point in time you're not prepared to do, but the the sense of opportunity that comes with that may lead you forward. So I'm placing, I have a, on my Calendly scheduler, I have a place for impact uh, coaching. And so I'm going to leave that link in the show notes. So if you'd like to talk, sign up for it. And if you want, after we talk, if you want a longer contractual agreement for talking and coaching, we can set that up. All of this is just very bare bones, but it's very focused on doing and focused on impact. And that's really where I want to go. I have some interesting people coming up on the Substack and on my podcast. And I appreciate you watching and listening and reading. And I'll be back writing on Substack soon as I come to the close of what I've called my sabbatical from writing. But I thank you for who you are and what possibilities there are for you in this world today. And we'll see you next time here on the Eddie Number podcast. Bye bye.